Hello, my name is June. I am a bass music producer, DJ, sound designer, music educator, and today we are going to be talking about sub bass. Sub bass doesn't get a whole lot of attention in the Ableton YouTube tutorial scene, particularly when it comes to sound design, so I thought it'd be worth our time to dig into one of the sounds that makes electronic music, particularly bass music, what it is. In short, sub bass is a pronounced but understated sustained sound that occupies the lowest of the low frequencies, between 30 and 60 Hz. This is usually some variation on a simple sine wave, or, if you were me circa 2013, just a sine wave and nothing else. I'm including 808s under the category of sub-bass, as they serve similar musical purposes in modern bass music and hip-hop production. Also, if you want to get sample packs every month, including some of the subs and 808s I designed using these techniques, be sure to become a patron at patreon.com/June_Bernie. It's just $1 a month, and any support is much appreciated. The importance of a great sub-bass cannot be overstated. When mixed and arranged properly, a sub-bass can turn a lackluster bass line into something that is literally going to shake the whole room. And there we have something that makes sub-bass so visceral. It is a sound that we can not only hear, but we can feel as well. This is especially true on a big system with big subwoofers, but also notably on a good pair of over-ear headphones. So as we proceed with this lesson, keep in mind that we will be engaging with these sounds not only with our sense of hearing, but also with our sense of touch. So without much further ado, let's get into the first part of the lesson. For this demonstration, I'll be using Operator, but you can follow along using whichever synthesizer you are most comfortable with. Also, please keep in mind that you may not hear the sounds I am making if you are listening on earbuds or laptop speakers. For best results, listen on over-ear headphones or a system with a decent subwoofer. I'm going to create a 1-bar clip and draw on a MIDI note at F-sharp 0, roughly 45 Hz, as I tend to write a great deal of my music in F-sharp minor. This is my preference, but any note with a fundamental between 35 and 60 Hz will be just fine. Most sub-basses use a sine wave as the bass sound, but feel free to use a triangle wave or one of the bit-reduced sine waves featured here in Operator for more timbral color. It should also be mentioned that Wavetable has a few presets that are designed specifically for subs. We are going to change the algorithm of Operator to parallel mode, which ensures that no FM is happening between the two oscillators. We will also set the coarse tuning knob of oscillator B to 3, turn the volume up a bit, and adjust the attack time of both oscillator A and B so we don't get that annoying click at the attack. Just like oscillator A, feel free to use a triangle wave or something else with a bit more harmonic content if it suits your style. A quick note about the coarse tuning knob. Most people assume that it just transposes the oscillator by octaves, but what it is actually doing is multiplying the frequency of whatever note you are playing in Hertz by the value of the coarse tuning knob. So by setting the coarse tuning knob to 3, we are actually setting oscillator B 1 octave plus a just intonated perfect fifth above the fundamental. So we are skipping the first harmonic in the harmonic series in order to better approximate the first 2 harmonics of a square wave in our final sound. That third harmonic will also cut through the mix a lot more aggressively and be more audible on cheap headphones or laptop speakers. Now what we just created is what I would consider the bare minimum for a basic sub-bass. But this video isn't only about subs, so how can we turn this super basic sub-bass into an 808 sub-kick? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. In order to get that characteristic thumpy attack that an 808 has, we will first need to engage the pitch envelope and set it to 100%. This alone gets us most of the way there, but I'm also going to lengthen the decay time of the pitch envelope to make that thump a bit more dramatic, and raise the starting pitch to 24 semitones, or 2 octaves above the sustained pitch. Now, most 808s decay in volume over a period of time, so I'm going to adjust the sustain amount and decay time of both oscillators A and B in order to achieve this, and the basic core of our 808 is complete. Now that we have a sense of how to design basic subs in 808s, I want to dive further into some of the more nuanced sound design techniques that can breathe a little bit more life into what would otherwise be a pretty flat sound. If you want to give your sub a little bit of wobble, you can adjust the fine-tuning of oscillator B in order to create some destructive interference between the two oscillators. This is what causes that tremolo effect. Next, we will add a touch of distortion in the filter section. Personally, this isn't something I tend to do that often, because I prefer to add distortion later in the signal chain, but this is a valid option. Speaking of which, let's talk about the different options we have for distortion in the audio effects. We have amp, erosion, overdrive, and saturator, but feel free to use anything else that accomplishes the same task. Personally, I find that amp usually gives me the naturalistic character I am looking for, but I try to mix it up as often as I can. I also like to use cabinet and EQ to further sculpt the tone of my sub or 808. Usually at this point I have added a fair bit of upper harmonics to the sound that need to be tamed a bit. We want those harmonics present, but we don't want them to overwhelm the whole sound. Also consider using an LFO or other modulation source to add some subtle pitch drift to your sub. And the last sound design tip I am going to give you is to layer in another sound, whether it be a synth, vocal, or noise, into your sub. It may sound a little strange, but it makes all the difference. The key here, however, is to run both your sine-based sub and your additional layer through the same distortion device. This will make both elements sound like one cohesive unit rather than just two random sounds layered on top of each other. Some people like to get really extreme with this, but I prefer a more subtle approach, as I usually don't want my sub to be the star of the show. Now that we have made our sub or 808, it is time to talk about how to actually apply this in a musical context. How do these sounds fit into our other musical elements, like drums or a low mid-range bass? Additionally, how can we articulate our sub-elements in interesting and creative ways so it isn't just a relentless drone and actually contributes to the groove and arrangement of our tune? First, let's talk about fitting our sub in with other musical elements. In this example, you can see that my sub is simply doubling the movement of my main bass sound. Here is my top bass, and here is my sub. This is more of a mixing tip, but make sure to high pass your top bass at around 80 Hz to make sure that the fundamental of your top bass doesn't clash with your sub. I also recommend running both bass sounds through some light compression and/or distortion. Keep it subtle. We aren't trying to change the tone of our sounds too much. We just want them to sound a bit more cohesive. Now we can talk about ways in which your sub bass can be articulated in more creative ways. Here, for example, you can hear that my sub is given this tremolo effect by using the AutoPan device. The AutoPan's phase is set to 0, and we have the sync function engaged, so the tremolo effect is in time with our tempo. Another thing that you might want to consider is whether your bass line is going to be staccato, legato, or somewhere in between. For those not familiar, staccato refers to a short and snappy articulation of your musical element, while legato refers to the opposite, long sustained notes that often glide into one another. You may also be familiar with the term portamento, which is a similar idea, but refers specifically to the long dramatic glides from one note to the next. Since 808s are more percussive in nature, they are suited very well to staccato, and since sub-basses are often sustained longer, legato is usually preferred. But feel free to experiment with different articulations of both 808s and subs to find out which works best for you. Lastly, I want to discuss some ways in which pitch bend can be utilized to get even more use out of our subs. Here I have created two more examples, one utilizing an upward pitch bend and the other a downward pitch bend. So let's start with that upward pitch bend. Here we are using the sub as a riser. As the sub rises and the tension builds, that lack of low end makes us crave a resolution that will usually come when the drop hits. For risers like this, I like to make sure that the starting and ending pitches are musically relevant, like tonics or fifths. However, I'm going to be honest, this is one of those details that most listeners probably won't pick up on. You may even consider automating a decay in volume as the drop approaches. Now, here's an example of how we might use a downward pitch bend. Here we are using the sub to transition from a high energy moment of the track to a lower energy moment. It is important to have some sort of sound that serves this purpose when shifting from a drop section to a middle breakdown section, otherwise it just feels like the rug has been pulled out from under your feet. 808s are especially good for these moments. as they have that satisfying punch and also a natural decay. That is everything I got for you today. Again, subs are a super important part of modern music production, whether you're making bass music, pop, hip-hop, and you may even see some sneaking into rock and metal. If you have any comments, critiques, concerns, criticisms, questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to get back to you ASAP. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.